Just Mercy, written by Bryan Stevenson. The book Just Mercy follows the story of civil rights attorney Bryan Stevenson and his fight for justice for black men wrongly convicted and incarcerated. The book briefly covers some cases that Bryan has previously been a part of, but Walter McMillian's case was the main focus of the book. McMillian was a black man that had been wrongfully accused of murder. He was placed on death row even though he was completely innocent. From the beginning, Bryan noticed several flaws in this particular case, so he did everything in his power to convince everyone that Walter was an innocent man. Considering that Walter and Bryan were both black men, their chances of reversing the case were extremely low. Bryan had all the evidence in the world needed to get Walter off of death row, but he remained guilty over and over again. However, Stevenson took the case to the Supreme Court, and something spectacular happened.
The cultural experience that was apparent in this book is injustice and racism.
Just Mercy emphasizes the importance of active resistance to unfair situations. Bryan Stevenson describes racism, corruption, and cruelty that spreads through American court systems, which then leads to marginalization of certain communities. This book clearly demonstrates how white people viewed black people as insignificant. It's sad to think that your skin color can determine how you are going to be treated for the rest of your life. An example of marginalization is when Walter was accused of murdering Rhonda Morrison, even though there was not one single piece of evidence that made this seem somewhat true. Officer Tom Tate didn't take into consideration how badly Walter and his family were going to suffer from this. However, Tate did consider the fact that he will be known after finding out who murdered Rhonda. Some characters were in some very tough situations. Throughout the book, abuse, rape, murder, and racism were all mentioned. Walter has to face being put on death row and not being able to see his family just because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Bryan, on the other hand, is constantly trying to find good, strong evidence just to get rejected at court. Each character in the book is going through something difficult, but coming together as one is what can solve a lot of their struggles. Back in Alabama, black people were often treated differently just because of their skin color. Walter had once said, "Black men in Alabama are often guilty before they are even born."
We found ourselves discussing often how Walter was portrayed differently in the book to the movie. In the movie, he was very tough, but in the book, he was more desperate. We also discussed how the movie didn't say all the accusations that Walter was charged with.
We often try to put ourselves in the positions the characters were in. A lot of times, their situations were extremely tough, and every single person would have a different answer to what they have done in this situation. Throughout the book, there were often several times when a character had to make a rather tough decision. So we often found ourselves discussing what we would have done in that same situation. An example of this is when Ralph Myers was asked to tell the truth in court. Whether or not he lied or told the truth, he was still going to make someone happy and someone angry. Overall, this book has definitely given us a better understanding of what it was like for African Americans back in the 1900s. Just Mercy also delivers a message to the readers. The message simply is, stay determined and never give up. Put everything you have into something that you are passionate about.